apparently Dr. Seuss is racist now. First Lady Melania Trump sent packages of 10 Dr. Seuss books to libraries in all 50 states as part of National Read a Book Day in early September, which really is just a nice thing to do. Kids have been enjoying Dr. Seuss for decades, and personally, when I was 5 years old, One Fish, Two Fish was like the funniest book I had ever read. Along with the books, Melania sent a letter talking about the importance of reading and how her and her son particularly enjoy all the places you'll go. According to the White House website, the schools that received the books in each state were chosen because they'd been identified by the Department of Education as having achieved high standards of excellence as well as local, state, and national awards. Everyone was okay with this and gladly accepted the donations, except for a librarian in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who decided to turn a gift into a condescending political diatribe. And before I go on, let me explain. Dr. Seuss is a big deal in Massachusetts. He's from Springfield, which has nothing else going for it anymore except for drugs and murder. Dr. Seuss is the last thing that this city had left. So for Massachusetts residents, especially those over in Western Mass, denouncing Dr. Seuss is the equivalent of declaring cultural war. Nevertheless, Liz Phipps Suero wrote an entire 2-page open letter about all the reasons why we should hate Dr. Seuss in the name of social justice, despite these awkward pictures of her dressed as the Cat in the Hat for a green eggs and ham party. She may now have deleted her social media, but the internet is forever. In the letter, Suero attributed her school's excellence to their socioeconomic privilege and the fact that she has a master's degree. She explained that children read better when their librarian has a master's degree, and so the other schools in the state just can't compete. I'm pretty sure that my school librarian that I saw only one day a week as a kid was a parent that volunteered, so it sounds like I'm just lucky to be literate. Suero also took the time to condemn school choice, teachers' salaries, and blame every underperforming school in the country on white supremacy and Betsy DeVos. You see, school choice is a problem because when parents choose to send their kids to better schools, they're selfishly not thinking about all the other students. And by the way, Suero's school is really just too good for those books, and if the First Lady really wanted to impress people, she would have picked children's literature that no one has ever heard of instead of a tired and old and dead cliche. But not just a cliche, a racist cliche. She wrote condescendingly, "You may not be aware of this, but Dr. Seuss is a bit of a cliche, a tired and worn ambassador for children's literature." She added, "Another fact that many people are unaware of is that Dr. Seuss's illustrations are steeped in racist propaganda, caricatures, and harmful stereotypes." Admittedly, this is not the first time such a claim has been made. In 2012, Business Insider published a Before He Was Famous article featuring some early advertisements for a bug spray company that were actually pretty racist. But the article noted a few things. Number one, that the guy was born in 1904, and unfortunately, that kind of racism was the norm back then, even for liberal Democrats like Dr. Seuss. Not to mention, some of his ads about World War II were in fact commissioned by the Army. But just because he wasn't some pioneering force challenging the racism of his contemporaries doesn't mean we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The article also pointed out that Seuss later, quote, mended his ways and drew many more political cartoons against racism than he did racist bug spray ads. Still, writers like Philip Nell argue that the cat in the Cat in the Hat was actually a blackface minstrel stereotype of black culture. Now, I don't have a copy of the Cat in the Hat on hand to test that theory, but I feel like they might be reading a little too much into it. Nevertheless, Nell wrote a whole book about racism in kids' books, cleverly titled, "Was the Cat in the Hat Black?" Among other things, the book complains that Seuss, as well as other children's authors, whitewash their book covers to perpetuate structural racism. A quick Google search of his books showed me roughly a dozen book covers that even included humans on them, and yet the man wrote 45 books, so we're looking at roughly a quarter of his entire work. Not to mention, most of his characters aren't even human. They're weird furry birds and cat, dog, fox things. So moving from book covers to illustrations, Seuss complains particularly about "And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street," because it has a couple of stereotypically illustrated pictures of a Chinese boy and an Indian guy on an elephant. Are the pictures insensitive? Sure, but they were also drawn in 1937. Everyone was racist in America in 1937. I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but it's certainly context, and context is important in trying to understand pretty much anything. And again, later in his life, Seuss spoke publicly with regret about his previous prejudice. Seuss, for being an expert in kindergarten literature, apparently forgot about this, and also apparently forgot that in 1966 he actually wrote an entire book about multicultural diversity and friendship. Seuss ended her letter with a couple of backhanded compliments about how expensive the shipping must have been, and how Melania's gift was nice, but she really should have known better than to donate books that children have loved for ages. She then provided a list of 10 kids' books that Melania should have donated that talk about immigration, deportation, prison, and, quote, children who stand up to racism and oppression for social justice and reform. Because these are absolutely things that 5-year-olds should be bombarded with when they're first learning how to read 3- and 4-letter words. Elementary school is the new chic, cool place to have a political agenda, even though its audience isn't old enough to grasp the complexity of any of these topics. But hey, don't leave propaganda when someone else does it. Unfortunately, even though the internet became outraged, many parents at the school are actually supporting Seuss. Maybe it's only a matter of time before college students and grade schoolers alike are marching into Springfield's Dr. Seuss Memorial yelling, According to CBS Boston, Cambridge Public Schools made a statement that Seuss's opinions do not represent the district and that she wasn't actually authorized to accept or reject the books. She supposedly received a stern talking to regarding their policies around not using public resources for political purposes. So, was Dr. Seuss racist? Yes, apparently at one time he was, but he later changed his opinions around race, and if we're going to condemn everyone that ever had a single prejudiced thought in their heads, then we probably need to condemn everyone. Just because Dr. Seuss was personally racist once upon a time does not mean that he was professionally racist, or that his works are sending malicious subliminal messages around hating black people. That's it for this week's video, but I want to give a big shout out to all my patrons who help my channel grow and improve with every single video. I could not be making these if it weren't for you guys. If you're new, please like, share, and subscribe, and if you want to help support my channel, you can do so through Patreon or a one-time donation with PayPal or Bitcoin. Or you can just join me on any of my various social media accounts. As always, thanks for watching and helping me to spread the message of liberty.